Welcome to the Private Practice Startup Podcast, where we help ambitious private practitioners across the globe to brand themselves and grow their dream practices. We chat with successful private practitioners, business coaches, and marketing experts, bringing you tons of practice building ninja tips. Visit privatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and our signature marketing e-course. Here are your co-hosts, Dr. Kate Campbell and Katie Lemieux. Hey there, Startup Nation. Welcome back to another Up Close and Personal podcast series. This is our third round of doing this series, and it is a delight, really probably for you, but even for us, we love doing this. We get an opportunity to meet and get up close and personal with the podcast practice building and experts that you most want us to interview. So we're really excited about doing this third round, and today our guest is Chris Swenson. So we're really excited to be getting up close and personal with him. But before we do that, if this is your first time landing on our podcast, we want to say thank you so much. And you know what? You're part of the Startup Nation family now, and we're giving you a big virtual hug. And we have gifts for our new family members. So head on over to privatepracticestartup.com. Head over to the resources tab, and actually there you'll see a bunch of gifts for you. I definitely recommend, whether you like it or not, as therapists, we need paperwork. So check out our free paperwork course called Paperwork Up to Par. Discover what's putting you at risk. Let's talk a little bit about Chris before we jump in today. So Chris Swenson is a licensed marriage and family therapist, is the author of the recently published book, Private Practice Warrior. He is the owner, founder, and solo operator of Rhino Wellness Center, which is Chris's successful full-time solo practice in rural Colorado. Chris is a true private practice warrior who believes that therapists and private practice are in the best position to truly make a difference in the mental health concerns of our world. Fun fact, snakes really freak Chris out, and me too. It would be spiders for Kate.
Actually, I was walking yesterday. I'm in northern Michigan now. If you guys hear the birds chirping, it's a lovely sound, and it's sort of faint, but Katie and Chris just said that they could hear them. So if you're enjoying the birds with me, I hope that's a pleasant experience and not too distracting. But I was on a walk, and a huge snake crawled right in front of me. Oh. It was probably 4 feet long, black snake with like this bright yellow stripe all the way through it. I don't know what kind of a snake it was, but it was about 2 feet away from me, and I screamed and yelled a bunch of curse words and had a total freak out moment. Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
Yeah, I would have probably started screaming and running myself too. So yeah.
I love that you shared that fun fact, because that might be something that someone's wondering anyway. So that's like perfect for this episode in this series. So Chris, we really like to just kind of dive in to understand who you are, where you grew up, what were you like as a kid. So share with us a little bit about that.
Well, I grew up right on the border of North Dakota, Minnesota. So basically, if you cross a river, you're in a different state. And so I was like born in Fargo, North Dakota. Grew up in a small town south of there, Wahpeton, North Dakota. And growing up, there's always like a lot of Chris's. And so like in my school, like I think there was like 4 of us. So there's always like Chris M, Chris D, I was Chris S. And then in my neighborhood, there was another Chris as well. And he was older than me by a couple of years. So I was always called Little Chris. They called me Little Chris and him Big Chris. Even all the parents, everybody does. It's like, hey, it's Little Chris. You know, even though it's probably bigger than he was. But so I always tell people, like, where are you from? I always tell them, like, I'm Little Chris from Wahpeton, North Dakota.
That's so funny. It reminds me, growing up, there was a lot of Katies, right? And I had a group of, there was 3 of us, all the same name. I think it was Kate, KK, and Katie. And that's how they differentiated us. Kate, I'm sure you have a story.
Yeah, I mean, Katie's a very common name. I can remember going to college and dropping the I and becoming Kate because there were so many Katies, and I wanted a new identity. And here I found my way back to a business partner, Katie. It's so funny.
Yeah, no, I even go to restaurants, and then they ask you for your name, you know? And so like, I'll go out there with my girlfriend, and they'll ask, what's your name? And I'll say Rhino. And she's always like, what? It's like, oh, so I told her, I said, here's the deal. Like, there's so many Chris's. So if they're going to say Chris, but 3 or 4 of us will come up to the front. And so now when I tell them Rhino, there's nobody else is going to give that name. But usually from the people when that happens, they're always like, what? And then I'll like, Rhino, stuff like that. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about your upbringing. So there's a lot of Chris's. What were you like as a kid? Did you have siblings?
Yeah, I have two younger sisters. So I got a younger sister who's 2 years younger than me and another sister about 4 years younger than me. And so I grew up there. My neighborhood had a lot of great friends around. I just remember, like, in the neighborhood, there's a lot of people that had money that was around us, and we didn't. But people thought we did, but we did not. You know, it wasn't like I was poor by any means or never had food on the table. But I never always had like the name brand of anything, you know. And all of these people around usually would do a great job of letting little Chris know how they have this and I don't, things like that. But like going through school, I always said I was a pretty popular kid. I was an athlete, so people said that I was a jock, but I was never like the typical jock where I wouldn't like mess with people. I didn't want to like make fun of people. I didn't want to do anything like that. I was the one that would usually tell people to knock it the hell off, you know, just leave them the fuck alone. Like, come on. So I was like popular, but not that popular because I wouldn't quite play the dance.
What sports did you play?
Oh, I think when I was younger, I pretty much did everything. Like I would do the baseball, the basketball, the football. I was too good at basketball where I liked to play hockey, but I'd go down to the park and play hockey with a lot of the hockey players. I did wrestling for a while. Wrestling was not my thing. It's kind of a funny story with that. I got out on the mat. I think it was maybe like second grade. I get out on the mat and I'm like, this guy, are you kidding me? Like I could beat him up. Like this is nothing. So I got him. So I go up there and he freaking whooped me. He was like this coach's kid that knew all these moves. I had no idea that wrestling had moves. I thought you just throw people down, you know, like it's a fight. So I realized wrestling was not my thing. But eventually, like high school, I got rid of a lot of the other sports. All I did was basketball and football. I did some martial arts for a little bit, not too long. Mainly me and my friend enjoyed doing it. We just kind of messed around and had fun. So basketball, football were primarily that one, with basketball being probably the sport that I was my better one at, definitely.
Chris, what life lesson did you learn when you kind of sized up this kid and you're like, I could beat him? What did you learn about life at that time?
You know, I don't know if little Chris learned anything in that moment besides what just happened. But I mean, besides learning that there's moves in wrestling that I didn't know about. And I think to me when I look back, we can't be good at everything, you know. You get thrown into these things. And there are some people that skill does go a long way. And if you don't know anything, yeah, you know, from the thing. But I still think if I'd have took them all back, I probably would have beat them in a fight. But that's not what the wrestling match was about.
Yeah. And you talked about growing up and you not having money and the other kids did, and you got reminded of that. What was that like for you? How did you deal with that?
You know, I think I learned a lot of where I wasn't good enough. I mean, there's a lot of stories I have where I was just one of those kids that just not going to work out for. So I wasn't quite like good enough would be the big thing with that. And then my dad was in business. He had his own business for a long time as an accountant. And so everybody thought we all had money because he had his own business. And it wasn't quite like that. But so to me, that's my biggest thing I've had. Growing up, it was all like not good enough. Besides that, like the story, most of the time in my life, it's like things just don't work out well. There's been a lot of disappointment. A lot of things just don't work out. You know, like today, coming on here, you know, it's just those little things like, you know, normally your computer loads up on time, and today it's just not. It's stuck, and you're like, come on, load up, you know?
Yeah. So I want to ask you about some of the highs and lows from your childhood. You're sharing a little bit, but before we do that, let's just take a quick moment for our sponsor. Tired of never quite feeling comfortable with your practice financials? I'd like you to meet Green Oak Accounting. Their goal is to empower private practice owners with the financial information they need to make good business decisions. They specialize in working with solo and group private practices in the mental health industry, so they're uniquely positioned to help with figuring out what's normal in your business finances and what's not. So if you've ever had a conversation with your accountant or bookkeeper that left you wishing that they understood private practice or had some best practices to share, head on over to greenoakaccounting.com and schedule a free consultation to see if they might be a good fit for you. They can help you with all your accounting needs, from bookkeeping to payroll to profit first and budgeting, as well as forecasting. Also, check out their new podcast, Therapy for Your Money, where Julie Harris talks about all things money, finance for private practice.
When you're in private practice, it can be tough to find the time to review your marketing efforts, let alone make improvements when they're needed. Whether you're a seasoned clinician whose current website needs to be revamped or a new therapist building a website for the first time, Brighter Vision is here to help. By understanding your business and what makes it unique, Brighter Vision's team of designers then uses this information to create a custom website catered to your specific marketing goals. Better yet, every website includes professional search engine optimization to make sure you get found in online searches, as well as unlimited technical support so your website can change and grow along with your practice. The best news of all, listeners of the Private Practice Startup Podcast get $100 off any new website. To get started, head on over to brightervision.com/PPS. Again, that's brightervision.com/PPS.
So what was a highlight of your upbringing? What did you really enjoy?
I think growing up, I always enjoyed spending time around family. I know family is a big, important thing to me. And so I remember going to my cousins, going to see my grandparents, spending time at the lakes, being around friends, playing the sports stuff, even hanging out in the neighborhood, skateboarding. I remember I used to skateboard quite a bit, things like that. It's just mostly hanging out with friends, I think, is what I really, really enjoyed a lot of. I mean, there's highlights, I can't say there's a lot of highlights from the athletic side from winning, because we played in a class system that was way out of whack. And so my football team, we won one game in 4 years of varsity football.
Wow.
So, and getting beat 63-7 was nothing. That's just, we were just outclassed. I think after I graduated, I think they moved down a class actually in football, but which is what they probably should have did on there. But I remember basketball, I think I got MVP of the team a number of times. Besides my senior year, that was probably my worst year. I had, not sure where I hurt my back, if it was when Chris was being stupid and jumped off the garage of the roof. And I got my foot stuck in the little gutter, so I landed on all fours on the ground, kind of jacked myself up.
Ouch.
But I played a whole football season and with nothing. Then after that, I could barely bend my neck at all. And they found my lower back, I tore some ligaments. So basketball, I had to put this stupid brace on, couldn't jump, couldn't move. So I think that kind of wrecked probably my first season. But no, I think highs were I just enjoyed being around people, still do. I enjoy visiting with people. I enjoy just being around friends and family.
Nice. What were some of the lows of your childhood and growing up?
I think the lows are, I go back to my neighborhood. It was always the thing, whoever moves in, they kick your ass. That's what they do. I don't know why that was. So I remember being out riding my bike in the neighborhood, and these, the kids come out and they just start shaking my bike and throwing me around and all this stuff. And then I guess I was in, after that. I remember those times. I also remember a lot of times, low times I'd always go to the skating rink. Grew up in the 80s. I loved roller skating. And it would come those times where I'd look around the hockey players, man, they could skate way better than I can. It always seemed like everybody else was more cooler than I was. People would ask them to go out there and go skate with them, not me. So I kind of felt a little out, something's not right. Things just don't work out for me. Not good enough. And I know that, even when I was a senior, I graduated. I was dating this gal. We dated for a good year after that. Thought she was the one, back then. And then all of a sudden you find out that she ends up cheating on me with the guy who was dating my sister, and they're still married to this day, actually. I'm more happy to them, but I know it probably wouldn't have worked out when I look back now. But at the time it was just, are you kidding me? And then even I remember being, in football as a senior, and I had started varsity as a junior, and then I get in as senior, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, so now I'm not playing as much. What the hell's going on, you know? And me and the quarterback, he was a year younger than me, really didn't get along very well, and that might have been it, because the year before I got along really well with the guy, the other quarterback that graduated, and so he wouldn't throw to me. He'd always throw it to the other guy. So then I did like a protest thing. You know how everybody moves on the sideline together? I just stood there until the coach kind of came over and talked to me. But I guess it worked. He let me play a little bit more on that end. But I just think that growing up, there was just a lot of that where you saw everybody else get what they want and I don't. Just things like that, where I developed a lot of defeatist mindset for years because, you know, you don't win very often. Things don't quite go your well. You're not good enough. You know, you might as well just settle for what you have and just let life dictate to you. And so that defeatist mindset ruled for quite a while in my life. I remember I got an MIP which is a minor in possession, when I was the day I graduated when I was 18. You know, and we went into this parking lot. It's kind of a funny story, but we get in this parking lot, and we're just looking at cars. And then the cop pulls in. We didn't even drink yet. We just had it there. So this guy pulls in. He's like, "Oh my gosh, I could smell alcohol on you. We know you're doing this." And I'm like, "What?" Then he goes over, and there's these cans that were like crushed that weren't even ours that were in the parking lot. He starts looking at the serial number. Oh, yep, they're the same ones. And I'm like, "Whoa, no, they're not." And he grabs me and slams me down on the hood. And he said, "Don't play Perry Mason with me, son." So in that moment, I learned to like, shut your mouth. Don't say anything a lot of times. Yeah. So I remember that. That was kind of a crappy thing on my graduation night.
So a lot of like difficulties going up, and you talk about really like developing this defeatist mindset and things like that. And when did things start to shift for you? And when did kind of the idea of coming into the mental health world come into play for you?
Well, it's an interesting story because I always wanted to be a fighter pilot. And it's all I wanted to do was fly airplanes. Growing up, is everything. So I had the grades. I had everything you need to go to the Air Force Academy. It was just, that's when I found out I have these. You have to have 20/20 to be a fighter pilot. So it was really devastating to me. Like, there we go again. Now that's great. But I went to school initially to be a pilot. So I went up there, which again found it's more of a rich person's profession, as most of these kids already had their license. It was ungodly amounts of money to be putting towards lesson that I didn't have, neither my family. So I had left, went back home. They were supposed to set up an aviation program there, but that didn't happen. So then I went into the business world for a while, got an accounting degree, and I worked in the accounting world, business world for, maybe 5, 6, 7 years. And then I had, I was always kind of the guy that was, I didn't really give a shit anymore. So for a number of years, it was like I didn't really care if I lived or died. Never thought I'd be 25. I never thought I'd live to be 25. That was always just something that I had. So sometimes my first round of school was just show up and don't really go to class, have fun, because there's no point. It was probably right around when I was 23 years old, I got in a bad car wreck. And I thought, man, maybe what if I'm right? 25, this is going to happen. And when I lived, I don't know how I lived through it, but I did. And so then I thought, well, maybe I'm wrong. So I better try to figure this out. And that's where I tried cleaning myself up a little bit. I had met my ex-wife at that time. And then I went back to school and I got back into psychology, went on this route of getting my master's in marriage and family therapy. So it just kind of transcended that way. What brought me in when I really looked at where am I better at. Like in accounting world, man, you sit in a cubicle. That was not my thing. Sitting in a cubicle looking at a screen all day and reports. It was like, no, I was always the guy where everybody always come up to him on the street and just have no idea who they are. And all of a sudden they start telling you stuff. And they come to you for help. I've always been the guy that no matter what's going on, I'm going to have the cool head in the group. Like we'll get through whatever it is. And so I really enjoyed the psychology stuff. I enjoyed helping people. And I knew that was probably felt more right to me. And it has. And so that's where I got into this profession now. Yeah.
Gotcha. And what was it about that moment of the car accident when you didn't die and you didn't think 25, you're going to live past 25? Like what happened there for you that you said, I got to get this, figure this out?
Well, I think it finally dawned on me that maybe I'm wrong with this. Like if you're going to live longer than this, then you better settle down and find out something to do to make money, because just going out partying all the time or not really caring too much is not going to really work for you. Yeah.
Let's just take another moment in for our sponsor. If you've ever felt lost trying to find great people for your business, you need to try Wise Hire. They're an online recruiting system that makes the hard parts of hiring, like making ads, posting to job boards, and tracking candidates fast and easy. Plus, they're super affordable. We love that their DISC personality assessment helps you find exactly who you're looking for. We know it's tough to juggle all you do, and hiring the right way can be a full-time job. With Wise Hire, it feels like someone's with you, supporting you every step of the way. Their team lives and breathes their mission of both helping you hire and helping teams create fulfilling careers and happy lives. And that's something we really believe in. Right now, they're offering a free strategy session to the Private Practice Startup listeners. If you're thinking about growing your practice, you got to get on this call. They are the experts on building amazing teams from the ground up. Start hiring or book your free strategy session today at wisehire.com/PPS. That's Wisehire, WIZEHIRE.com/PPS. Because who are some of the people that influenced you in your life, whether they were like a mentor or a coach that influenced you in a positive way? And it could be your adult life or even when you were a child.
To me, I'd say myself always, because you're with yourself 24/7. People give you those things. Who's the most influential in your life? And you list all these other people. And then they go, what about you? So I would say that. But I know Abraham Lincoln by far. I know I never met the man, obviously, but through books and stories I have. But his life and just something about him came into me around that same time where I started to go back to school, figure stuff out. And there's just been like something about his life, just kind of this, maybe it's the hardness of it, the difficulty, the things not working out. Same kind of thing, just kind of felt that way. But there was so much wisdom that I would study and learn from him. So he's always been a big influence on me. I know my grandpa Marvin was another one. That would be my mom's dad. He was a politician for a long time, but just a great, great guy. And I remember he used to tell me when I was younger, he'd be like, my family all call me Christopher, is my real name. I can always tell, like Chris, people in my family always call me Christopher. And he would tell me, Christopher, life is to be enjoyed. And I remember telling him, like, are you kidding me? Do you see what goes on? I'm like, no, this is, And right after he died, I remember driving home and it just hit me. Like, wow, I get it, And so having joy has been one of the pillars of my Rhino mentality that I seek to live every day. And so that was something that's been there. So I think from there too. Beyond that, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead, and then I'll ask my question when you're finished.
Oh, I was going to transition into something a little bit different. Now I don't remember. So go ahead.
I was just curious, what does bring you joy?
Oh, for me, what brings me joy, like my 2.5-year-old granddaughter, my children, spending time with my girlfriend now. There's just little things where I appreciate life so much that I know you never know when it's going to be taken away. And so for me, like when I see my youngest daughter, like singing and dancing, I could just sit there and like just soak it up as much as I can, like trying to get into that meditative mindfulness in the moment as much as you can to remember that. Even when she was in the back seat in the car and she'd be singing, and I'd always put my head back driving and just try to listen to her sing so I'd never forget that. And then like my son, when he does his sports, he's a big sports guy like I was, and now basketball is his thing too. And to just be able to cherish as much as I can with that. And my oldest, it's amazing how, she's married, has this daughter, how great a mother she is. It's just phenomenal. So those kind of things I like to just sit down, even with friends sometimes. I can just step back and just observe, and I just try to soak it as much in as I can. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful.
Chris, what were some of the ways that you kind of came to this awareness, like after your car accident, that you need to kind of figure this stuff out? And, now not only are you a therapist, but you really teach others how to be private practice warriors. Like, what is some of the work that you've had to do for yourself that you also teach others to kind of overcome these things?
Yeah, great question. Because, I had that, like I talked about, that defeatist mindset for so long. And even though all through school, I think it was still there. When I got my first job working at an agency, I think most of that was still there. It wasn't until probably 2012. Well, not really. I think this one was more solidified. I think from probably 2005, when I began working at that agency, until I left there in 2012, it always was formulating. Like I call my practice Rhino Wellness. To me, Rhino means everything to me. It's my whole life ethic. It's Rhino is my mentality. And if you like the book, The Private Practice Warrior, the mindset in there, that is my Rhino mentality, just tagged a different name. But I began really adopting a lot of stuff on my own and through supervision, where identifying what are my principles, what matters most to me, what is my purpose. And
Can you talk?
This stuff.
Can you talk a little bit about those things, principles, things that matter most, the purpose?
Yeah, absolutely. It is. The principles I have, there's like 10 of them. And like excellence is one, personal responsibility, joy, as we talked about, purpose and passion become another one. Resilience is that. They become those things that I know when I began doing that is having those words that somebody that operates by this mindset, how do they respond? How do they react to things? And so for me, it was so quick to just kind of like curl up in the ball, be in the shell, oh, things ain't going to work out, this doesn't go. And instead to switch over and begin to really ingrain this different mindset. And so those kind of principles are what I will fall back on. Now they become a lot of second nature to me. I mean, I remember like watching when my son played baseball, and it would be like a close game and they're a little bit behind, and everyone's getting all tense and freaking out. And that's the way it used to be. And then now it's so different. I start getting adrenaline. Like it just pumps me up like, man, now we got to fight. Now we do. This is what's going to make you a better person right now. This is what's going to take you to another level. This is the thing that's going to. So I think personal like growth becomes huge to me. And shying away from the uncomfortableness or the struggles, no. I get kind of juiced up. Like it's, like it's not like, hey, we're about to get into a fight, but it's more of like, those things, I don't like it. Like I don't feel like, yeah, let's bring on some uncomfortableness. I really enjoy it. No.
Who does, right?
Yeah, but it's like when it happens and it's in it, it's like, man, let's do this. We're going to band together. Let's get together. Let's do these things. Let's get through this. It's going to make us be better. None of this stuff's going to beat us down. We got this. Life's got to come at us a little bit more of this. We can do this, That has slowly come where it becomes very automatic to me now. And there's been a lot that when I got into private practice, there was a lot that I learned a lot from a lot of the warrior cultures. And so I spent time around military. I would listen to podcasts. I would read books. I would listen to interviews. I started studying a lot of the samurai culture. And doing a lot of that reminded me a lot of when I did martial arts when I was younger. So that began getting into more of just the mental toughness side, where it wasn't just living these principles and values anymore. It was, what do you do consistently to strengthen your mind? How do you purposely put yourself in challenging situations to become better at what you do? And that's where the evolution of like private practice warrior came, because it's the challenge of creating a practice is all about building a better you so that you're a better parent, a better father, a better whatever you need to be for your community. And so not shying away from those and letting fear kind of dictate your life, which I think I've done that for a long time. Most of my upbringing, my whole life, I think I've just let fear kick my ass. And it still does from time to time. Don't get me wrong. I'm human. As I say, I demonstrated my humanness today, But a lot of times now it's like, no, you don't own me. I live my life. What do I want for me? And then that's when things really began to be different for my life. Yeah.
And what is some of the self-improvement or self-growth work that you still do today, whether it's daily habits, investing in whatever?
Yeah, I worked a lot with Mark Devine in his Unbeatable Mind program. So I've been through that, and I did a lot of that work. I follow a lot of things he does. So for me, there's a lot of books that I consistently read. Like, I'm an avid reader. I mean, obviously, with my thing upcoming with Master Private Practice, all I do is read books all the time, and now I can disseminate those information to people. But I'm an avid, not just like an avid reader, like I love philosophy. So I would read a lot of the Stoics. That's something I do consistently. If I can stick to the routine a lot, like COVID is kind of, feel like I've been on vacation with COVID, so I haven't been as consistent on my routines, but I'll read a lot of the Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca. I love Ralph Waldo Emerson, especially his self-reliance essay. So there's a lot of those things like philosophy I enjoy. So when I read, it's not just to read it. Like, I'll deep dive into this thing and I just process it. I take that time to myself consistently to really learn from where this is and how I can apply this. And then, with the Master Private Practice coming up here, hopefully, when this gets released, it should be done. But and where now I can kind of put those ideas out for practice owners too. But it's the daily practice is a lot of mindfulness. I visit my purpose. I visit my things. Like, I have them right here in front of me, actually, at the office. I got the purpose. I got my little Rhino creed and my 10 pillars of my Rhino mentality. I go through those, try to live them out each day. How do I earn those values? I don't just speak them. I need to earn them every day. So that's part of getting myself set for the day to get started. And there's sometimes I can just stop, take a breather, and kind of look around. I've learned that as I go through the day, I do need to stop and slow down, kind of recover a little bit before I go at stuff, and to never take yourself too seriously. Things will work out.
You mentioned being an avid reader. What's one of your favorite books?
Well, my favorite book of all time is Walden. That was written by Henry David Thoreau. And the reason I love Walden, beyond it has great wisdom in it, but my life has always been so busy and hectic. People always around me. And to get a chance to go out in the middle of nowhere for a year and just live. And he writes like we talked about the birds that you could hear. And he would describe the birds that would come as if they're neighbors. And so just the writing of it can just take you to this really calm, cool place. And so I absolutely love, that's my favorite book all the time is Walden. But like I said, the essay Self-Reliance would be another great one that's there. As far as books go, there's so many that I just have so many. I remember one time sitting in the garage with buddies of mine, and their wives were there. This was the time when I was married, but we had this party over there, and on my one wall in the garage, I built this huge bookcase, almost the entire wall, and there's books all over on this thing. And they were like, "Have you read every one of these?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Oh my gosh!" And even now, my Kindle is just covered with these things. So it's tough to know on a favorite book, Trying to think of something I go back to a lot. I think I go back to Unbeatable Mind, Mark Devine's Unbeatable Mind. He's got a new one now, Stare Down the Wolf. I'll go on those. Another great one that really, when I wrote Private Practice Warrior, one of the books I really got into was I just had it in my mind, but that's kind of bad. It's one of my favorite books, but I can't remember the name.
That's fine. It happens all the time.
But it was written by Miyamoto Musashi, who was the greatest samurai warrior of all time, who never lost a duel, all these things. And he wrote that. Oh, yeah, the Book of Five Rings. That's what it's called, the Book of Five Rings. And he goes through and kind of like disseminates his philosophy on what he sees as being samurai or whatever you will. But it's more about life. You can get into some things in there about how to defeat opponents with your sword, but I kind of applied that to business as opposed to actually going out and doing that. So I'll go back to read a lot of the Book of Five Rings. I know there's the Stoic philosophy stuff, so I got like a lot of their essays and writings. There's the one guy who has like the Daily Stoic is another great book. That's with that too. And recently, I really enjoyed like The Imposter's Cure by Jessamine Hallett, and The Perfectioneur. I just got done reading of Kara Crossway Brindle. I really enjoyed that and got a chance to visit with her. And I want to someday maybe bring her on for my membership so I get her deep dive into the book and really share some things. So I've enjoyed those. But I think I go back a lot to those, just a lot of Mark Devine's books on the middle mind, the mental toughness stuff. That's with that. But yeah.
Chris, it's been so awesome having you on today and hearing your journey through so many of the struggles that you went through growing up and childhood, and having those negative interactions with your peers and being bullied and fights. And so much of this contributed to those mindset challenges that you faced, and you worked so hard to overcome that after you had those pivotal moments in your 20s with your car accident and just being able to have that awakening. And it's so interesting to hear how your journey and your struggles have become your passion and your niche within this private practice coaching arena. And you are the essence of the private practice warrior. So it's so cool to see that you embody this, and this is what you help other people through to overcome those mindset blocks and to become private practice warriors, whatever that means for them. So thank you for coming on and sharing your struggles and triumphs and tribulations and all of that with us today. I think it's probably a good time for us to transition into the lightning round. Are you ready for that?
I am, yes. Mm-hmm.
All right. Katie, you want to go first?
Yes. What is one of your hidden talents?
One of my hidden talents, I just know people think it's funny. It's not a hidden talent of mine, but I'll say singing karaoke, but it's not. I don't sing very good. I think one of my hidden talents actually is acting. I would love to do the movies. I really would. It'd be so much fun. I have a lot of local people like, hey, you should come on down, get in the play. I'm like, no, that's a musical. I don't sing. I don't want to get in the play. I want to do movies. So I think maybe a hidden talent would probably be, besides teaching would be not my hidden talent, but I think, yeah, acting would be so much fun. I'd love doing that.
Can you impersonate people? Is that like a talent of yours within the acting realm?
Yeah, like I don't like have like an impersonation where I sound like them or this, but it's so weird. Like I'll be watching movies or I'll see people and then I start to feel that I could do sometimes the gestures and this stuff like that. I know lately I've been like watching The Sopranos. I've been watching a lot of Mafia. So then I'm always like, hey, how you doing? What you doing? Wow, yeah, you talking to me? Yeah. Stuff like that. But it'd be, yeah, I would just love, doing the movie stuff. Fun. And that's something, that's a talent, man. You hear those people when they do that. Wow, they get into it. Like they can really get into mimic and the mindset of these people. I almost wonder if they got like therapy people like ourselves to help them understand the psychology of who they're mimicking.
We talked about books. I'm wondering what's one of your all-time favorite movies?
All-time favorite movies. I was a Star Wars kid, so I enjoyed Star Wars. But I would say Outsiders. If you remember that movie, The Outsiders, it had like a lot of the classic people in it. And I think it was just that I really identified a lot with Ponyboy, Johnny, and all of them, just that tough upbringing kind of thing. And so The Outsiders would be a movie that I would have on a stranded island if I could only see that one. And then Glory. Glory was a Civil War show about Massachusetts 54th, the first black unit that Robert Gould Shaw had. And yeah, I love that show too. So those would probably be the big ones.
So this one's just kind of a random funny one, but I thought I'd ask, what kind of toothpaste do you use?
Oh, I don't even have a specific toothpaste brand. I really don't. I try to get like the teeth whitening stuff, so I can do, I get whatever that's in there. And then my girlfriend used to be a dental assistant. So I was like, what should I get? And she got me this tube of something, but I know it's like in a red tube, but I'm not really specific on that as long as my teeth get brushed and I'm okay. Yeah.
I'm wondering, with all the work that you've done on yourself, Chris, do you know what your Enneagram type is? Have you done any Enneagram work yet?
No, I have not. And I keep hearing people all the time talking about this thing. And then I'm very curious. So I'm like, I need to do that and go, okay, where am I at here? And then for me, like my personality, like I don't like to be pegged into a hole because I think maybe that's my hidden talent is to be a chameleon. I could be anything to anybody at any moment, but I don't like to be like pegged in because I'm such a big on like guy on story. This is how I see myself. This is how I am, and that's it. But I think in different situations, we can always be different. You can call it a different part of yourself. But I need to do that, and I will, and then I can let everyone know.
So, Chris, last and final question. What is one thing on your bucket list?
One thing on my bucket list. I know. I was just talking with this the other day with my girlfriend where I was like, where do you really want to go? And I'm like, I don't know. I love just to spend time around family and friends. That's really it. I don't have like, when I look at a bucket list of like skydiving or that stuff, it's, if I never do that, I really care less. But to me, it really just comes down to spending a lot of time with my family and friends. Like I want to have as much moments as I possibly can. But I'd love maybe someday to go to New Zealand. That'd be pretty cool to do. That's on there. Maybe it could be doing a movie and getting an acting thing or a TV show. Maybe that'd be something kind of cool. I might like that. Yeah. Definitely.
We got to put it on your list if it's not there already. Make it happen. Yeah. Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining us on this podcast series of Up Close and Personal. And like Kate said, is really just letting people kind of understand your journey and how you got to become the private practice warrior. So we look forward to you guys joining us next time as we welcome our next guest on the Up Close and Personal podcast series. Take care, Startup Nation. We'll see you later.
Bye, everybody. Thanks again, Chris.
You bet. Thanks you.
Thanks for joining us on The Private Practice Startup. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and so much more.